All right, happy 1 p.m. in the afternoon in Cambridge, England. I hope everyone is doing well and having a great day so far. Welcome to the third in our series of three lightning talks for the OASPA conference this year. I'm Jennifer Gibson. I'm head of open research communication for eLife and the chair of OASPA. If you are just waking up and joining the conference today, please do feel free to introduce yourself on Slack if you haven't done that before. Add your location to the Menti map. We have 138 people with us so far for the poster session. All right, so we have a bit of a routine here. So we've got 60 minutes and 10 presenters. What we'll do is give each presenter 4 minutes to speak, and then we'll take a break after three presentations, and then have some questions at the end as well. So the order that we'll follow is the one in the program on the website, which is Peter, Katie, Dom, and then we'll take a break and we'll do Catherine and Sarah, and then Hannah, Christina, and Josh, and then we'll take a break after Josh. I'll remind you of the order before we dig into the second session. Okay, Pete, I am starting your timer now.
Right, so good afternoon. My name is Peter Barr. I'm Head of Content and Collections at the University of Sheffield Library, and I'm presenting on behalf of myself and my co-author Nargis Kalozada, who was project officer for this work. So our poster shares the work that we did developing the library comprehensive content strategy at the University of Sheffield. So previously, the kind of governing document of acquisitions work within academic libraries has tended to be a collection development policy. And our reflection is that these documents are kind of too inward looking and too asset focused to properly govern what academic libraries are now required to achieve. By focusing on what is held and subscribed, they do not take account of the wider world of academic content and specifically open content. Collection development policies don't support the role that libraries and particularly library budgets are expected to play in the transformation of scholarly publishing. The transformation of publishing requires explicit acknowledgement in library strategy and an acknowledgement that transformational agreements do not represent the totality of this work. Transformational agreements, at least from my experience in the UK context, have not, are not working fundamentally and are not saving us money. And in fact, in terms of what the content budget is spending, it's now drawing in APC spend. Nevertheless, the question remains that if we can save money through transformational agreements, through cancellations or via other methods, what would libraries like to be able to do with it? Would we be able to spend it where we want? Would we be able to repurpose it for the creation of an equitable scholarly publishing environment? The comprehensive content strategy is a key enabling document for us in trying to achieve this. Without it, any savings that we make would either have to be handed back to the university or spent on procuring more paywall content. We seek to move away from thinking only about procurement and management of assets to a conception of the library budget and collection as repurposable for the ideals of open science. This includes investing in open infrastructure and, where appropriate, the labour that creates and administers open content. This kind of spending is unusual in the context of wider university procurement. It makes central finance departments nervous. Staffing budgets and content budgets are very separate, and there are regulations designed to stop money drifting between the two. Similarly, if not understood properly, investing in open can be thought of as a kind of charitable giving that doesn't have direct operational benefits for the institution. The content strategy does not solve these issues in itself, but at least it begins a conversation by linking what the library is trying to achieve with the wider research goals of the university. And anybody who's ever been asked by a central finance department to provide 3 quotes for your renewal on Nature will know that with enough diligence and persistence, you can generate a special case for the library budget. So the focus on access and transformation within our content strategy actually frees up collection management. It moves it away from being about the management of isomorphic big deal subscriptions and conceiving the concept of the collection as the central method of providing access, and we hope allows us for a return to curation and the celebration of what is culturally unique within our collections. For us, the library comprehensive content strategy brings together work that was already underway, but gives us a framework in which to push forward confidently. It allows a library such as ours to conceive of ourselves as an active player rather than a passive consumer of content and external policy. We hope it will be illustrative for publishers and fellow libraries, and of course, we'd be happy to discuss it further. Thank you.
Peter, thank you. And thanks to Bernie for reminding me that we will take questions in the Q&A box, and we'll pause for questions at intervals. So for our presenters, hold your replies for our breaks. So Katie, you are up next.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So I'm Katie, and I'm based in Bristol in the UK. In September 2020, eCancer, an open access oncology journal, changed its submission criteria to only accept articles with at least one author from a lower and middle income country, LMIC, or which have a significant impact on underserved settings. So we made this decision in response to the urgent need to step up cancer services in LMICs, as WHO warns that 81% of new cancer cases over the next 20 years will occur in these countries. Cancer has now reached pandemic proportions, becoming the cause of one death every 5 seconds in LMICs, and surpassing the total global mortality from HIV/AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis combined. Global inequities in science publication only make this situation worse. There is a significant lack of data on which LMICs can base international cancer control plans. For instance, Africa makes up 17% of the world's population, but only 1% of published research is by African authors. So we hope that this pioneering approach would lead to more collaboration between high-income and low-income country authors and tackle the issues of geographical bias, lack of funding, and linguistic difficulties. So we thought this might lead to a drop in submission levels, but actually the rate remained about the same. The percentage of articles from LMICs and underserved settings rose from 51% in September 2020 to 82% in September this year. We provide free English language editing for accepted articles and advise authors who may not have a lot of publication experience to make sure their articles have the best chance of being fairly peer reviewed. We also accept submissions in Spanish, and if they pass peer review, we translate them into English and publish both versions. It's essential that local experts are involved at every step of the publication process, as they are uniquely placed to understand the specific problems faced by healthcare professionals from their region. Treating a cancer patient in Uganda or India is totally different to treating a cancer patient in the US or Europe. We raised the percentage of LMIC-based editorial board members from 36% to 50% and are continuing to ensure that our board reflects a diverse spread of our author and audience base. This also applies to our reviewer pool. eCancer is a UK registered charity, which is why I wanted to make sure that our limited resources are going towards improving cancer prevention and care in the areas of the world where we can make the most of a difference. Regarding article processing charges, we have a pay what you can afford model for the journal. Authors are asked to make a voluntary donation of any amount they choose. The percentage of authors paying towards an APC has actually risen since we changed the submission criteria, from 25% last year to 33% this year. We've received feedback that this is because they really appreciate the service we're providing and they feel part of the community. They want to support us to carry on supporting them. We've also found that high-income country co-author institutions are happy to pay towards open access publication, as they recognise how important it is for this kind of research to be freely available. However, this income is still not enough to support the publication of the journal, and it is supplemented by charity, sponsorship, and grants. The publication of real-world data is crucial for areas of the world where Western guidelines are not always applicable. So we commission articles on issues where publication of these results is most urgently needed, such as HPV vaccination for cervical cancer, tobacco control policies, and pain relief at the palliative stage. We also publish articles which highlight inequalities in high-income countries, such as poorer outcomes for cancer patients from Indigenous, migrant, and refugee populations. I just want to finish with a quote from one of our authors, Dr. Kofi Efa, who works in cervical cancer prevention in Ghana. We need discerning journals and editors to bring out solutions fit for Africa and low-income countries, not just original research in academia. I am motivated to publish, to share experiences in solving problems. Some of these problems require simple solutions, not rocket science, and have been shown to work. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Katie. Okay, Dom, and then we'll break for questions. If you have any questions, please do pop them into the Q&A box.
Thank you, Jen. In August 2020, a preprint was published by Luxor, Matthias and Jan that showed that 174 open access journals had disappeared from the web since 2000. This, of course, is a huge problem. Two technologies that stop research content in journals from vanishing are permanent identifiers and long-term digital preservation. However, journals aren't being preserved, and this is down to two things. One, a lack of understanding about why preservation is important and necessary, and two, a lack of access to the right resources to make preservation happen, namely time, money, and know-how. DOAJ contains one of the most diverse collection of peer-reviewed open access journals in the world, and that's not just in terms of subject matter or language. There's a wide range of journal types and profiles ranging from single mega journals through to multiple journals from one publisher to thousands of single journals run by one person just because she's passionate about her subject. At the last count, there were about 4,000 single journal accounts in DOAJ. This range means that these journals have varied access to resources such as financing, technical skills, time, and humans. In fact, 58% of the journals in DOAJ have reported to us that they don't take part in any preservation service at all. And this is where JASPA comes into the picture. JASPA is about creating a process that will give people the information they need to make an informed choice about which preservation solution is right for their journal. JASPA is about creating a process that will allow people to choose a preservation solution and get their journal's content digitally preserved. And it's about creating a sustainable process that provides a single interface for the many archiving agencies represented by the Keepers Registry to come and collect the journal content, thereby reducing setup time, costs, and effort. Finally, JASPA is a sustainable process that takes into account the huge diversity of the journals indexed in DOAJ and ensures that the content from those journals is preserved in many places. The OA Diamond study that Pierre presented yesterday published a set of recommendations, and JASPA is already fulfilling two of those. Recommendation 2.3, stimulate and enable journals to preserve their content. And recommendation 4.2, consider using more shared services and infrastructure. We're also hoping that the incentive that JASPA offers journals will fulfill recommendation 4.6, register Diamond journals in DOAJ. Phase 1 of JASPA is about scoping, testing, and building. The 5 project partners are funding it themselves, providing money and tech to get JASPA off the ground. We're about to run our pilot group of journals through the process, so testing is due to start, which is very exciting. Phase 2 is about opening up the project to a wider group of journals and preservation agencies. It will secure funding to make the infrastructure sustainable, and it will improve on what we've built already. In the future, we hope to be able to widen the net and perhaps include journals from other sources. If you have any questions after the conference, you can email us on preservation@doaj.org. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks so much, Dom. Okay, let's have Peter and Dom and Katie back on screen just for 4 minutes. We'll see what questions we have. The first one I've got is for Katie about e-cancer. So the question is from Tasha. Has the change in editorial criteria created a risk of guest authorship? And if so, how has e-cancer dealt with this?
Hi Tasha, thanks for the question. No, as far as I know, that hasn't been an issue at all. Generally, most of our papers from LMICs, all the authors are from that particular LMIC or a surrounding LMIC. There are some high-income country, low-income country collaborations, but those have mainly come from 2 or 3 institutions where we have sort of long relationships with those authors. So yeah, it's not been a problem so far.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm double checking for hands raised because I missed them yesterday and I don't see any. So I think you all are off the hook for the time being, but do stick around as questions continue to come in through the session. Okay, now we are going to move to Catherine and Sarah. I think you're co-presenting, and then it's going to be Hannah, and then Christina, and then Josh. Then we'll have another quick break, and then it'll be Amber, Judith, and David. So that is Catherine and Sarah. Away you go.
Great. Thank you, Jen. I'm Sarah Lippincott, an independent consultant specializing in library-based publishing. My co-presenter who will participate in the Q&A portion is Catherine Skinner, Executive Director of the Educopia Institute. The Next Generation Library Publishing Project is a multi-year collaborative initiative funded by the Arcadia Foundation and led by Educopia, the California Digital Library, and Strategies for Open Science, in close partnership with the Confederation of Open Access Repositories and Longleaf Services. One of NGLP's primary goals is to create a more balanced, effective scholarly publishing ecosystem that aligns with academic values. As our team sought to define alignment with academic values, we identified a compelling need for evaluation mechanisms that allow academic publishers and infrastructure providers to demonstrate in concrete terms the policies and practices that make them compatible partners for libraries and productive participants in building a more equitable and open scholarly publishing ecosystem. In June 2020, our team designed and published the first iteration of a values and principles framework and assessment checklist. The framework is structured around 6 values commonly invoked by the range of manifestos, open letters, and statements that have been issued over the past decade that call for recalibration of scholarly publishing. These values are equity, diversity, and inclusion, transparency, openness and interoperability, access to knowledge, representative governance, and financial and organizational stability. For each value, our framework proposes indicators of alignment and offers examples of concrete evidence for an organization to demonstrate its commitment or compliance. Following a public comment period, the framework and checklist are now undergoing revision and refinement. The refinements will focus on reinforcing a strengths-based approach to evaluation. We want the tool to be inclusive and appropriate for organizations of all sizes and levels of maturity. Rather than labeling organizations and communities that can't check all the boxes as lagging behind or out of step, we want the focus of this tool to be transformational change, encouraging players of all sizes and backgrounds to build on their strengths to better embody shared values and principles in the field. We want our tool to recognize growth and evolution, not just results, identify strengths and not just deficits, and center aspirations along with descriptions of the current state. Our revised checklist will therefore adopt language that centers strength, growth, and progress, and will include tracks that are appropriate for organizations at different stages of maturity. Our poster shows an example of the revised framework and checklist for the value of transparency. You can see, for example, if you look closely, I know it's very small, that an indicator of transparency is that an organization publicly documents its internal operations, including its official business identity. And evidence of alignment with this value would be a link to a web page detailing the tax status and relationship to an incorporated host or fiscal and legal sponsor, for example. You can find more information and links to all of the NGLP project's outputs at the bit.ly link on our poster. We are actively seeking partners to test and adopt the revised version of the framework, and we welcome feedback from the community about how well our work serves its intended purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm sorry I didn't mean to throw you off by moving your poster around.
No worries.
Okay, we'll take questions in after 3 more presentations. So Hannah is going to come on next.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you today. My name's Hannah Drury. I'm a product manager at eLife, and I'm here to introduce you to a new product called Society. So we know that while the rise in preprint use has been a huge win for science, it's made it even harder to keep on top of the latest developments in your field of expertise. There's an overwhelming amount of information available and little to help decide what to pay attention to or where to invest your limited reading time. Society offers the opportunity to contribute to and benefit from crowdsourced organization of the literature. Thanks to publicly curated lists and the aggregation of open evaluations from a number of different groups of experts, we hope to help you see what your peers find interesting and, most importantly, to discover your next read. Preprint evaluations themselves on Society take many forms, from automated screenings covering reproducibility to the more familiar multi-part review consolidated by a single editor. So long as the final output is transparent and completely open, we're agnostic with regards to the process each group adopts, which allows the reader to benefit from multiple perspectives while formulating their own opinion of the work. We, in fact, use the term evaluation on SCIETY rather than review, in the hopes that it more inclusively reflects the arrays of opinions that we support. This, of course, allows for voices other than those of journal editors to be heard. Perhaps your lab is regularly using preprints as a teaching tool and you're reviewing them together as a journal club. While SCIETY will enable you to share those unique insights publicly and receive credit for your efforts to keep the community informed. As an author, you then benefit from receiving feedback early from a number of sources, as well as the chance to reach a wider audience with your work. The events surrounding each preprint, including evaluations and version history, are presented as a stream of activity alongside the title and abstract. And in this way, SCIETY calls into question the notion that the work is finished at the point of publication. Post-publication review, revision, and curation mean that a preprint can continue to evolve as a kind of living document without necessarily reaching completion. Public curation of lists is an area that we're currently exploring, because we've heard how heavily researchers rely on recommendations from trusted individuals or leading lights within their field. Just as Goodreads is a source for book recommendations or Spotify is a source for music recommendations based on crowdsourced links between related titles. So our vision for SCIETY is to be the go-to destination for researchers looking to discover their next important read. Finally, while we're developing SCIETY in the open, we have no fixed roadmap for specific features. Instead, we're relying on feedback from users to help determine how we can best achieve our aims while solving problems for scientists. And with that in mind, I'd encourage you to take a look at the application today and sign up to our mailing list to keep abreast of the latest updates. You can also follow our journey via various social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, by following SCIETY HQ. That's SCIETY, capital H, capital Q. And I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thanks so much, Hannah. Okay, let's scoot along with Christina.
Hello, everybody. I am Christina Hetner from Leiden University Library in the Netherlands. And this is my first OASPA. So I'm enjoying the poster sessions very much, and I hope you will enjoy my presentation as well. The main message of this presentation is that reproducible institutional open access monitoring is possible with simple programmatic knowledge. So we have developed a software package in the statistical programming language R to perform this task. Open access monitoring can be cumbersome and often involve many manual checks. So we, that is Utrecht University and Leiden University, we wanted to simplify this procedure and make it more robust and reproducible. Together, we developed a script in R, which we later transformed into an R package for ease of use. Utrecht now uses this R package when reporting the open access numbers once a year to the Association of Universities in the Netherlands, and Leiden uses this for local institutional monitoring. And now you might think, but I don't know how to program. Well, we held a workshop for all universities in the Netherlands, and within 2 times 2 hours, all universities had completed the analysis and visualization of their data. So the package is designed for use with quiz data, but it basically only needs a list of DOIs, so any source of input is possible. One important point is also that the package uses information about the national deals with publishers. So in that sense, it might not be directly applicable to your needs, but it is available on GitHub with an open license if you would like to modify the code. And if you have access to such a list for your own publications, you should be able to use that. And you can let me know in that case, and I can help you put the list in the right format. And the training material from the workshop that we gave is also available on the GitHub repository as a sort of tutorial. Now going back to what you see in the poster. First, I will explain the method, and after that, some example results. The first step is to gather and clean the data. The data gathering is done manually but the package will take care of some of the standard cleaning issues, such as checking if the DOIs are valid. And the second step is to classify the publications into the categories gold, hybrid, green, or closed. For gold, we query the DOIJ API. For hybrid, we use a list based on the national deals with publishers in the Netherlands and the unpayable API. For the green and closed, we use the unpayable API. Once we have classified the publications, the results are saved as tables and visualized in plots. So I put two example plots here with real Lightening data behind it. One that shows the proportions of the type of publications per faculty, and one that showed the publication strategy for the whole of Lightening University. For the faculty plot, you can see that some faculties value gold, hybrid, or green more than others. For example, the science faculty have a much larger green contribution than other faculties. For the publication strategy of the whole of Lightening University, it is obvious that hybrid takes the largest share of the publication type, but not all is done via national deals. So thank you very much for your attention. And well, please contact me if you have any questions. I didn't put my orchid there, but I'm the only one with that name in the world, so I'm easy to find.
Thanks so much, Christina. Sorry for messing with your poster as well. I'm not on my A game today. All right, we've got one more presenter, and then we'll pause and see what questions we've got. Josh Brown, it's over to you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Brown. I'm a member of the More Brains Cooperative, and I'm here to talk to you today about some research we did as part of a project commissioned by JISC in the UK and sponsored by Research England around developing a national strategy for open access to UK research supported by 5 priority identifiers. So the identifiers we focused on are for grants, people, projects, organisations, and outputs. And we focused on open PIDs with community governance. Now, the piece of work I'm talking about today was intended to evaluate the business case for more investment in the adoption and coverage of PIDs across the research and innovation sector. And we looked at possible savings in 3 areas. So there was metadata reuse, and I'd just like to offer a huge hat tip to Rob Johnson's work here, which was the foundation for our quantification of these benefits. Automation, so automatic ingest of metadata, and aggregation and analysis. So metadata reuse was the easiest to quantify, so we focused on that. And the headline findings are that there are massive savings to be made. Our figures are significant underestimates. But what we could find is the most conservative estimate. The National Orchid Consortium in the UK has delivered more than £4 million in savings over 5 years. The Crossref Orchid auto update that helps to serve up article metadata to institutions, funders, reporting systems, and others has saved at least £1.25 million. And DataCite's equivalent auto update has saved £600,000 in 2020 alone. Now, these are good numbers, but they're actually limited because investment so far has not been sufficient. Coverage is not complete, even after 6 years of various national consortia being in place. So these benefits are limited. So what this poster does is it takes these 5 priority PIDs and shows at a high level how they interact across the research lifecycle. It shows how the actions of funders, institutions, and publishers affect the other players. We're all interconnected, but the people who bear the brunt of inefficiencies across this lifecycle are all too often the researchers. Now, why does that matter? Well, we know that these savings across the ecosystem could be much, much bigger. But what these savings that we've missed represent are waste. It's a waste of effort, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, and it's a waste of expertise. Now, if you take the example of a project, think of all the information housed at the project level and all the connections that could then be made using that information at subsequent stages, enriching article metadata, helping to connect articles to data sets, software, helping to give credit for more kinds of collaboration. Now, at the institutional level, just rekeying project data is costing £1.5 million a year in the UK. That's time and money wasted on data entry for projects alone. Now, I've talked a lot about institutions so far, and there's a reason for that. And it's because we could not get good data on the time that is used for administrative tasks, metadata creation and reentry at publishers. That's a whole new research project that we didn't have the time for. So I'm here today to urge this community to come together, take the work we've done, take the cool toolkits that are available, adapt them and do this analysis for yourselves as an industry, make the business case and invest. There's great work being done to reduce inefficiencies. I mean, the OA switchboard is a fantastic example of that. But the OA switchboard would also benefit from more reliable, more complete metadata and identifiers. Our qualitative work indicates that there are a lot of ways that publishers and content platforms could make significant efficiency gains, cost savings, and metadata quality improvements by reusing data in PID registries, adding more metadata to the PID records you create, and critically, sharing this PID metadata across your internal systems. And where that isn't happening now, that's driving your costs up, but it's also affecting the whole research ecosystem. These inefficiencies multiply out. So please work with your system suppliers, work with funders and institutions, and help to save time and money for yourselves, your partner organizations, and critically, your authors. Thanks very much for your attention today.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. All right, you guys have done great. All the posters have been really great so far. Thank you so much. We're missing our California contingent of the moment, so they always add a bit of energy. But we've got a question as well, and I hope you guys got a chance to stand up and stretch your legs. We have to remind ourselves to do this on a regular basis in these environments. So, question about PIDs. Josh, maybe this is a good one for you to start off with. What needs to be done to bring together all existing personal IDs? There may be lots of types being used at the local level. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question. There are so many different persistent identifiers for so many different kinds of entities, and I think what we've been focusing on is open identifiers with open metadata, because they enable you to build the most sustainable integrations and connections between entities. And I think that bringing together kind of local or discipline-specific identifiers and using something like the work section in an ORCID record, which can house a lot of different identifiers from different systems, and using that as a hub, or at the project level, something like the research activity ID, which is an envelope, and you can just stuff it with all the different identifiers for the instruments, the software, collaborating organizations, the funders and other things, and bring that together and make that information open, I think is really vital, because having these kind of authoritative sources of information and connections and reducing the number of points that publishers and other systems need to connect to reuse that information is a great way of kind of containing the costs and maximizing the flow of information.
Great, thank you. All right, you're safe from questions for the moment, but I do encourage our participants to keep adding them to the Q&A in case we've got some minutes to come back. So let's rotate to our next swathe of presenters. We've got Amber and Judith and David.
Yeah, that's our question. So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to introduce Quartz open access to this community. We are really happy to be here because our initiative is trying to bring another way for sustainability in open access. We want to build the cooperative route to fair, sustainable, and independent open access publishing, and we think we could not be in a better community to introduce our work. In short, what we are trying to build is a community of libraries, researchers, journals, owners that can bring sustainability, economic sustainability, to the independent open access publishing. And for that, we rely on a collection of tools. One is a really innovative browser extension that allows researchers to send micro donations as they browse the open access journals that they are on our networks. That helps channeling open access funds to independent open access journals. We also promote donations to these journals and crowdfunding campaigns for initiatives in the open access. At the end, what we want to do is to build this ecosystem that brings sustainability for open access. You might be wondering what's in it for you. Well, if you're a library, we can help you channel your funds for open access in a way that is meaningful for your community. We can help you give your researchers money that they will automatically spend or donate to the journals they involve the most. And that way we can help you to optimize your open access strategy. If you are a researcher, we can help you to support your favorite journals, but also we can help those journals for which you collaborate to recognize your work and give you not only money, but also other type of awards to recognize your valuable contributions. And if you are an independent open access journal, we can help you get an additional stream of funding, hopefully from the many libraries that will join us, and from also the wider community of open access that want to support you. And you will have access to a network of scholars that can give you not only economic support, but also a wide variety of services, from reviewing to, I don't know, language checkings or others. So what we want to do next is to build a cooperative, because we want our software to be a platform cooperative where all the people in the community have a voice. And we are also testing our technology. So if you are interested in testing our automatic donations extension or our donation buttons or anything else, please get in touch so you can be one of the early adopters of the community. Yes, please get in touch. We are in Twitter at Quartz Open Access, and I will share some other links in the chat now. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to Judith.
So I'm Judith Fatala. I'm talking to you from my position at Lancaster University in the UK, representing the COPIN project. So some of you have probably heard of COPIN. It stands for Community-Led Open Publication Infrastructures for Monographs. Monographs specifically because the structures supporting open access books are lagging severely behind those that are in place for journals at the moment. And COPIN, you can see all the work by following the links both to the website and the PubHub. It explores all aspects of the challenges around open access books. And work package 2, which I'm talking about today, is concerned with creating an infrastructure and revenue management platform. And you can see some of our partners and funders there on the poster, Scholar-Led being the group of open access publishers which we are opening. But this is a platform that we want to expand and involve more people with. So Work Package 2 has established or is establishing what we're calling the Open Book Collective. And at the heart of this collective, which is comprised of OA book publishers, librarians, OA infrastructure providers, and other stakeholders, is a website that offers this range of subscription packages that librarians can compare very easily what OA initiatives are on offer, because they tell us that it's very difficult and it's very time consuming to know what to support and how to get books into libraries. So there's this easily shared, searchable catalogue, which is going to use metadata integrated through the Open Book Metadata Service Tote, which actually ingests metadata from a range of OA book publishers and then produces it in the most readable, widely readable and comprehensive form possible. We're going to do our routing through existing infrastructure consortia such as JISC, and it's governed by a cooperative community with non-profit values. And our aim really is to support small publishers, small to medium publishers, in maintaining their independent character, but networking and joining with other publishers in this collective in a way that allows scalability at the level of network rather than at the level of forcing publishers to increase and change values in ways that they wouldn't necessarily want, and also making it much easier for them to get OA books into libraries, to make them discoverable, because they may not have the access routes that traditional monograph publishers have into libraries, and they may not have the time and investment towards creating them. And of course, to make it so much easier for librarians to compare and contrast initiatives, to choose what to support, to find the metadata. So if you want to be involved, please do drop me an email or follow the COPIN project on Twitter. And yeah, hopefully that also ties in with some of the presentations that we've already had on the need for integrated metadata and not necessarily relying on book processing charges.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. To conclude our session, we are going to invite David Shelton to the floor, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm David Schotten, Director of Open Citations. Most of the talks at this conference are focused on open access to textual content, but open bibliographic metadata is also vitally important, not least to enable the calculations of metrics that are both open and reproducible. Open Citations is a non-for-profit open infrastructure that provides such free access to global scholarly citations. We hold dear the values and principles that underpin open science, and we're early adopters of the Principles for Open Scholarly Infrastructure, POSI, and the FAIR Data Principles, of which we've heard already in this meeting. Our largest citation index is called COCI, the Open Citations Index of Crossref Open DOI to DOI citations, which currently indexes approximately 1.2 billion citations released to the public domain under a CC0 waiver. Our goal is for Open Citations to provide open bibliographic citation information having the scope, depth, accuracy, and provenance that surpasses that of the commercial citation indexes, for access to which scholarly institutions presently pay enormous annual subscriptions. And I'm pleased that we're rapidly moving towards that goal. I wish to mention just two of our planned developments. Open Citations Meta is a new database that will enable us to store in-house full bibliographic metadata about citing and cited publications. This will provide two advantages. First, it will speed user queries, since we will no longer have to wait for responses to on-the-fly API calls to Crossref and ORCID to retrieve such metadata. But more importantly, it will enable us to start indexing the large number of references involving publications that do not have DOIs, something that for technical reasons is presently lacking. Additionally, we plan to develop new citation indexes over other sources of open references in addition to Crossref, starting with DOCI, indexing references from DataCite, and NOCI, indexing the content of the NIH Open Citation Collection. Our progress has until recently been severely hampered by a lack of manpower. However, Open Citations was fortunate to have been selected by SCOSS, the Global Sustainability Coalition for Open Science Services, as one of the infrastructures providing a unique and valuable service and worthy of crowd-funded financial support by the global stakeholder community, which includes research institutions, academic libraries, funders, and publishers, among others. As a result of the generous support so far provided or pledged by about 50 such institutions, we have already reached about 1/3 of our requested SCOSS budget, enabling us this year to appoint new staff to start our planned technical developments, to support our community outreach, and to help take our vision forward. Such financial support is vital for our sustainability, since we generate no income from our provision of free data, free services, and open software. We thus invite you too to contribute to Open Citations if you are in a position to do so. However, we also seek community involvement in other ways. First, by participation in the community-led governance of Open Citations, to which we strive. Second, to help technically in the development of our open source software and services. Thirdly, by curatorial involvement, perhaps particularly by librarians, to improve open citations data. And finally, collaborations with other like-minded infrastructures to develop federated access to open scholarly information of all types, as Emir Ariani discussed earlier today, thereby returning control over such information to the academic community that generated it in the first place. If you would like to work with open citations in any of these ways, please contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. I'm going to keep you for a question, if I may. We probably just have time for a couple, but I'm going to read Tasha's question here. Given the historic abuse of citation indices to produce metrics like the journal impact factor, which are then inappropriately used, what safeguards is Open Citations putting in place to ensure this doesn't happen?
We provide open data regarding citations. What people choose to do with that data and how they may misuse or misinterpret it is rather outside our control, I'm afraid. In other words, gaming the system is something that we can't control. What we hope to do is provide explicit provenance for all our data and thereby ensure its trustworthiness.
Fair enough. Thank you. So David, is OC a product of I4OC? Is there a relationship?
No, the name is similar, and we are one of the participants in I4OC, the Initiative for Open Citations, one of the founding members of it. But I4OC is a ginger group, a pressure organization that has been working hard to encourage publishers to open their references submitted to Crossref specifically, and to make reference data open more generally. And in that, it has been enormously successful. The proportion of references submitted to Crossref that are now open has risen dramatically. And it is those open references that we use to populate COCI. But we are an infrastructure provider of data, whereas I4OC is an advocacy group, as is also the related sister initiative, the Initiative for Open Abstracts. And both of these point to the importance of open metadata of all sorts to enable proper metrics and investigation of the progress of science.
Thank you. And David, just to keep you on the hot seat, another question is, are you developing journal or article level metrics with your data?
No, we are not developing metrics. We are providing data on which others can develop metrics.
That's great. Thank you. Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much to all of our poster presenters today. Incredible work, incredible breadth, variety, and usefulness for everyone participating. The last I saw, we're at 191 people listening. So well done and thank you. We are next going to take a break. Just a brief one now, just 15 minutes before we get an update on the OASPA report on co-creating a healthy open access market. There's a feedback session on that project, and the report I think is coming out this afternoon as well. So it's a chance to whet your appetite for that. The survey, an exit survey for the conference will be circulated in email and in chat and in Slack. We do count on your feedback, your constructive feedback to help us improve the conference next year. The feedback from last year has certainly helped inform what we did this year, so don't hold back, please. And finally, I'm going to offer some concluding remarks at 4:30, and I would love to see you there. I'm just going to try and do my best to reflect on everything that we've heard and learned over the last few days. So please do join me. I'd love to have a conversation with you, and it's an important moment to send us all back to our homes and corners of the world. So please do come. And with that, a break. And see you in 17 minutes. Thank you so much, everyone.